From an American strategic perspective, the Gulf region is no longer a distant energy hub operating under a predictable U.S.-led security umbrella. Instead, it has become a volatile yet indispensable center of global power, one where shifting alliances, energy disruptions, and ambitious economic transformations intersect in ways that directly affect U.S. national security, global markets, inflation, and geopolitical influence. What is unfolding is not a temporary adjustment, but a deeper structural transition that challenges decades of American dominance in the Middle East, even as it increases the region's importance to Washington's broader global strategy. The aftermath of the Iran war has exposed a core weakness in the traditional U.S. Gulf security arrangement. For decades, Gulf monarchies relied heavily on American military protection, believing that U.S. bases, advanced weapon systems, and security guarantees would deter regional threats. Yet the conflict with Iran demonstrated the limits of this model. Gulf states experienced direct missile and drone attacks on critical infrastructure, oil facilities, desalination plants, airports, despite hosting large U.S. military installations. Instead of feeling protected, many Gulf leaders concluded that American presence made them frontline targets in conflicts they did not initiate. This realization has triggered a strategic rethink in Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Manama. Diversifying security partnerships is no longer optional. It is urgent. Gulf states are adopting a multi-alignment strategy that departs sharply from the era of exclusive reliance on Washington. This new approach involves deepening ties not only with Western allies, but also with emerging regional powers such as India, Turkey, and Pakistan. Even more consequential is the Gulf's cautious engagement with China in areas like technology, surveillance systems, and defense procurement. From Washington's perspective, this shift signals the gradual erosion of exclusive U.S. influence and the rise of a more transactional, multipolar security order. Gulf states are no longer content to be dependent clients. They seek autonomy, flexibility, and leverage. This emerging landscape is likely to produce new regional groupings, potentially involving Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan, that operate alongside rather than within U.S.-led structures. These coalitions will not replace American power, but they will dilute its centrality. At the same time, Gulf defense spending is rising sharply. Investments are shifting from traditional weapons to modern capabilities such as drones, missile defense, cyber warfare, and AI-driven surveillance. The United States still maintains a technological edge, but competition from China and other suppliers is growing. Washington is being pushed to evolve from a model of dominance to one of partnership and interoperability if it hopes to remain relevant in the region's evolving security ecosystem. This security realignment is deeply intertwined with the second major dimension of the Gulf's transformation: energy. The war-driven oil shock, which pushed global prices up by 40 to 50%, delivered short-term revenue windfalls to Gulf economies. But it also accelerated a long-term strategic threat to their oil-dependent economic model. From the American perspective, every spike in oil prices strengthens domestic political pressure to reduce reliance on foreign energy, expand renewable infrastructure, and secure supply chains. U.S. shale producers may benefit temporarily, but the broader strategic trajectory is clear. Washington aims to diversify away from unstable regions and reduce exposure to geopolitical shocks. Gulf leaders understand this shift. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are aggressively investing in hydrogen, renewable energy, nuclear power, logistics infrastructure, and global sovereign wealth fund expansion. These initiatives are not merely economic diversification projects. They are strategic hedges against a future in which oil is no longer the dominant driver of global growth. From Washington's viewpoint, this creates both opportunities and challenges. U.S. companies can participate in these emerging sectors, but Gulf-backed investors, flush with capital and increasingly sophisticated, are expanding globally into technology, infrastructure, and financial markets. extending their influence into domains traditionally dominated by Western capital. At the center of these energy dynamics lies the most critical choke point in global oil markets, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway remains a major vulnerability for both Gulf economies and global supply chains. From an American strategic standpoint, the persistent risk surrounding the strait, through which a significant share of the world's oil flows, represents a constant threat capable of triggering global economic shocks. Iran's demonstrated ability and willingness to disrupt shipping, whether through direct military action, proxy forces, or unconventional tactics, such as proposing tolls on oil shipments, turns geography into a strategic weapon. In response, Gulf states are accelerating investment in alternative export routes, including pipelines that bypass the strait, expanded Red Sea access, and overland energy corridors. Washington views these developments as positive steps toward reducing systemic risk. Yet they also signal that the region is preparing for a future in which U.S. naval dominance alone cannot guarantee security. This reinforces the need for a more resilient and diversified energy infrastructure system aligned with broader global stability. Beyond security and energy, the war has reshaped the Gulf's economic priorities in ways that carry significant implications for the United States. Diversification, long a stated goal, has become an urgent imperative. The realization that oil exports can be disrupted overnight, tourism and aviation can collapse during conflict, and food imports, on which the region heavily depends, are highly vulnerable, has accelerated investment in technology, artificial intelligence, finance, manufacturing, logistics, and food security. From the American perspective, this transformation is a double-edged sword. It opens new opportunities for U.S. companies in sectors like tech, fintech, and agriculture, but it also creates powerful new competitors. Financial hubs such as Dubai and Riyadh are positioning themselves to rival traditional Western centers, potentially reshaping the global economic order and reducing U.S. financial dominance over time. Gulf sovereign wealth funds are central to this shift. Their global footprint is expanding rapidly, with investments spanning technology, entertainment, infrastructure, and advanced manufacturing. These funds are not merely financial vehicles, they are instruments of geopolitical influence. Their growing presence in global markets gives Gulf states leverage in international negotiations and deepens their integration into the global economy in ways that complicate U.S. strategic calculations. This economic transformation is unfolding alongside increasingly fragmented regional politics. The Gulf is no longer unified in its approach to Iran. The UAE and Bahrain have adopted a harder stance. Saudi Arabia is balancing diplomacy with deterrence, and Qatar and Oman remain cautious. This divergence creates a complex web of alliances and rivalries that complicates U.S. strategy. Washington must now manage relationships with partners who have differing priorities, threat perceptions, and political agendas. The result is a region characterized by periodic flare-ups, proxy conflicts, and a persistent state of tension that falls short of full-scale war, but remains unstable. Paradoxically, this instability increases the Gulf's global importance. In a world still heavily dependent on its energy exports, any disruption in the region has immediate consequences for inflation, economic growth, and financial markets. The Gulf has become a central node in the global economic system, and from an American perspective, disengagement is not a realistic option, even as domestic political sentiment may favor reducing involvement in the Middle East. Global energy and financial systems are deeply interconnected, ensuring that shocks in the Gulf directly affect the U.S. economy through fuel prices, interest rates, and market volatility. This reality forces Washington to balance its strategic focus on Asia with the enduring importance of the Gulf. The region is not only a theater of competition with Iran, but also a key arena in the broader contest with China. Beijing is steadily expanding its economic and diplomatic presence through infrastructure projects, energy deals, and technology partnerships. While China has not replaced the United States as the region's primary security provider, Its growing influence subtly challenges American dominance and offers Gulf states additional leverage in their dealings with Washington. As the Gulf enters a high-risk, high-power phase, defined by increased militarization, rapid economic change, and growing geopolitical influence, the United States faces a complex challenge. It must maintain its interests and influence in a region that is becoming more independent, more multipolar, and more unpredictable. At the same time, it must manage the risks of escalation, supply disruptions, and economic shocks that could reverberate globally. The path forward will require a more flexible and adaptive approach. Washington will need to build alliances that emphasize partnership rather than dominance, support regional stability without overextension, and invest in energy transition collaborations that align with both American and Gulf priorities. It must also recognize that the era of unilateral U.S. dominance is giving way to one of shared influence and competitive cooperation. In this emerging order, the Gulf is no longer a peripheral oil-rich region, but a central force shaping the future of global geopolitics and economics. Failure to adapt risks ceding strategic ground in one of the most critical regions of the modern world. Success will depend on Washington's ability to navigate a landscape defined by shifting alliances, technological competition, economic reinvention, and the enduring centrality of energy security. The Gulf's transformation is reshaping the global system, and the United States must evolve with it if it hopes to preserve its influence and protect its interests in the decades ahead.